Don't get me started. Don't get me started, mate. Don't get me started on the Thrustmaster with all the terrible engineering choices that they made. I only paid $100 plus postage for basically brand new Thrustmaster joystick, Thrustmaster throttle, and Thrustmaster rudder pedals. So it's not so much of a huge investment, but I mean, it's not good. It doesn't have all the stuff that it's supposed to have, and it has all this useless crap that you don't need. I mean, don't get me started, right? I mean, for starters, the rudder pedals are totally jammed up. There's so much friction on the rudder pedals that they don't move freely. That's the first thing. And that's by poor design choices. And then the other thing is that's the rudder pedals. The throttle unit has too much friction. It slides beautifully. I mean, it has no friction. The throttle unit has no friction. It has too much lack of friction. It slides beautifully, but like you can flick it and it'll slide on its rails, kind of thing. So in real life, with a throttle in a plane that I've personally flown, you have this thing which Thrustmaster doesn't effing understand called throttle friction. Throttle friction. Throttle friction. There's a thing in aeroplanes called throttle friction. Thrustmaster doesn't seem to understand that. So what it is it's the way that you can set the throttle to your desired level of friction so that it's just right. It's an ergonomic feature of cockpits to have throttle friction. So you can adjust the throttle in and out, and then you've got a thing that you can twist to make it harder to push in and out the throttle, or twist it out to make it easier to push in and out the throttle. This can be quite useful. I mean, when you take off in a plane, one of the items in the checklist is throttle friction, because you want to adjust the friction so that it's just right. It's important. And so, listen, let me tell you something. I want to make a point here. There's so many buttons and gizmos on the throttle, on the Thrustmaster throttle right here. And you need to use them all. The idea is that the whole concept of this throttle is that all of your buttons are on the throttle, so you don't need to put your hand on the keyboard. So when you're in combat, you've got hand on the stick right here, and you've got hand on the throttle right here with all the buttons on the throttle, so you don't have to press buttons on the keyboard, like to zoom in and zoom out or to adjust the propeller RPM or anything. You can do it all from the throttle. So you don't have to touch the keyboard while you're in combat. You can do it all from the throttle, right? That's the concept, beautiful concept. But in actual fact, what's happening here is because there's no throttle friction on the Thrustmaster throttle, you want to do something basic, like you want to do this, zoom in, zoom out. To do that, you have to touch the throttle. I've got the engine set to perfect engine settings right here, and if I go and touch the throttle, oh shit! I just touched the throttle just a little bit, and look what I did. I moved the boost from 12 up to like fucking 16, excuse my French. Just from touching the throttle a little bit, I moved the boost from like 12 to 16, which is going to break my engine if I'm not aware, if I'm not cognizant of the fact that just merely touching the throttle to do that has then lifted the boost, and then I have to constantly monitor the boost for the micro aggressions that the throttle makes against me. Do you know what I'm saying? All of that could be fixed if Thrustmaster knew about throttle friction. They can't expect to have like a multi-function throttle device with the intention of it to have all the buttons on it, if at the same time, the moment you flick the throttle with your little finger, whee, it over boosts the engine, and then you're going to break the engine because you don't even know that you've over boosted it, because you just went to do this and suddenly you've over boosted the engine. They're stupid. There's actual engineers that are paid a salary to make these things, and I'm just way better at making these things than them. And I'm not an engineer, and I'm not paid a huge salary, and I can see the problems with their product from a mile away. And most of all, you might say, oh no, but it costs too much to do all of those things. If you want all of those features, go for something that costs more. But the truth is, these are not cost-dependent decisions for the most part. For the most part, they're retarded-dependent decisions because their engineers are retarded. Retarded! I mean, the runners that they have for the throttle are so frictionless that they would be perfect for the foot pedals. And then the throttle itself just needs a little device for throttle friction. It's not going to cost them very much. It's not. These are just choices. They're not really things that cost extra. It's not like it's going to cost you an extra $70 to have a throttle that has adequate friction adjustment. You really need to be able to actually tighten down the throttle if you want to, so that it's held in place, so that you can use all the buttons on the throttle without the throttle moving at all, if you want to tighten it down that much. That's what you need. And it's so, I mean, you know, Thrustmaster's come up with this whole thing and everything, and they're the industry standard basically. Don't they make the Warthog, and everyone who's like fantastic uses the Warthog? It's like this effing $800 bloody joystick and everything, and it's all retarded, mate. It's all retarded. They should just ask Froggy Frog 9000, how should we build all of our throttle, joystick, rudder pedals and peripherals? Just ask and I'll tell, and then you can make a Mozza, because your product will be actually servicing the requirements of pilots.